Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon for our Make UK event on technology and resilience for the north of England. We'll just wait for a minute or two just to let a few more people log on, and then we will continue with the session. My name's Tim Figures, and I'm one of the policy directors at Make UK with a particular responsibility for technology and innovation. So thank you for joining me this afternoon, and in a minute I will introduce the other members of our panel. Okay, well, I think a few more people are joining us, but I think we will make a start. And so I'm just going to share my screen with you, and hopefully you will be able to see that in just a moment. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us for the next 90 minutes. What we're going to do is have an online session in this format, and what we hope by the end of the session we'll achieve are the things that you can see on the slide there. Firstly, what we really want to do is take you through the links between technology and resilience and how that can help manufacturers and our whole sector as we come out of the COVID-19 crisis and seek to recover economically. And I'm really pleased we've got two great Make UK members, Adrian Hall and Philippa Glover, who are joining us this afternoon, who'll be able to explain in their businesses based in Leeds and in Liverpool what they've done and how technology has helped them be more resilient through this crisis. We will talk a little bit about our Make It Smart campaign, which is a programme of activity that Make UK is undertaking this year all around technology and promoting the digitalisation of industry. Hopefully that will inspire you to take action and look into this topic. And we will get back to you following the webinar and the session with some information about where you can find help and support. Just to let everybody know, the session is being recorded at the moment, and we will make it available on YouTube later so that Make UK members and other stakeholders who weren't able to join the session this afternoon will still have the opportunity of participating and hearing what Philippa and Adrian have got to say. So I hope that is okay. And just a little word of how we want to deal with the questions, because there are quite a lot of people on the session. So I'm going to talk in a minute, and then Philippa and Adrian. So for about half an hour or so, we'll make some presentations. And then following that, the panelists will answer your questions. Now, if you have a question, you can submit it at any time via the Q&A box. So if you click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen in Zoom, then a box should pop out. Please type your question in there. You can do it at any time when any of the speakers are talking, and then we will respond to the questions when we get to the question and answer session. It's also possible, thanks to Zoom, to vote for your favourite questions. So you can upvote in the terminology. Basically, click on the thumbs up by each question, just like you would do on Facebook. And the questions with the most likes will come to the top of the list, and we will prioritise those for response. So hopefully that takes you through how the session will work and the logistics. Please do feel free to put in your questions. This is about communicating and engaging with you, and pop them into the box at any time, and we will get back to you and make sure they're responded to. So firstly, what is Make UK's Make It Smart campaign, and why are we making it a priority in 2020? Well, even before the current crisis came along, trying to work on technology, innovation, and the digitalisation of the UK manufacturing sector was a priority for us. And whereas previously we talked very much about how technology can help improve productivity and cut costs, and also improve quality, what the COVID crisis has also shown is how technology can help improve resilience. And I'm sure all of you are thinking very much at the moment about the impact the crisis has had on your businesses, and on things like your supply base, your customer base, how your supply chain works, but also how you've been able to keep going during the crisis when travel's been difficult. You might have lost staff due to sickness or shielding, or supply chains have been interrupted. And so we'd really like to talk to you today about the contribution that technology can make towards helping to address those really, really important resilience issues. So we're doing three things at the moment as part of this campaign. First of all, we know that going on a digital journey is challenging, and that particularly small and medium-sized manufacturers probably need some help and support and some guidance along the way. There are regional support networks and services out there, but they could work better, particularly outside the northwest of England, where the Made Smarter programme is providing a dedicated service. So we, earlier in the year, engaged with stakeholders across the country and produced a policy paper that you can see there. It's got a number of case studies in it, one of which is Brandon Medical that you'll hear from a little bit later today. But this is firmly addressed at local enterprise partnerships, universities, growth hubs and other stakeholders who are trying to help manufacturing SMEs digitalize. We want to hold a number of best practice events like the one that we're doing today, because we think that it's best to hear from people who've been on this journey and their experience, so you can see how they've adapted to digital techniques in their particular businesses. But it's also really important that our evidence base is up to date. So we have got open at the moment our Innovation Monitor Survey. That's the first time we've done one of these since 2018, and we'd really, really like your input into that. We will circulate at the end of the session the link that you can click to fill that out, but please do take 10-15 minutes, that's all it would take to complete our survey. Then that means we've got the best possible information at Make UK so that we can help you most effectively on this topic. So what we're going to do now, I'll be really interested in your views, is do just a short straw poll. Hopefully you will be able to see this coming up on your screen now. And we are asking you two questions. Firstly, do you think that digital manufacturers are more resilient than non-digital ones? And secondly, which of a range of technologies do you think can make the greatest contribution to improving resilience? You can select up to 3 of those technologies. And the technologies we've chosen are the 5 industrial digital technologies identified by the Made Smarter Commission. So robotics and cobotics, additive manufacturing, also known as 3D printing, the industrial Internet of Things. So this is how connecting machines together to gather information about their operation, virtual and augmented reality, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and then finally not specifically industrial technologies, but things that all businesses need, like back office systems, so finance, HR, sales and so forth. So if you've not yet voted, could you please cast your votes now, and then I will share with you the results. So just give it a minute or 2 more, and then we will go forward. Okay, well, it's looking like everyone who wants to vote has voted. So let's have a look at the results. So firstly, that is very interesting. Pleased to say that 75% of you agree that digital manufacturers are more resilient than non-digital ones. You won't be surprised to hear that that we agree with that particular view. Would be interesting to see whether the 25% of you who don't agree with that statement feel differently when we get to the end of this session. And going down and just having a look at the technologies, that's very interesting. A lot of people are going for back office systems, not surprisingly, the industrial Internet of Things. Surprising to see how few of you have voted for 3D printing, because in a minute I'm just going to give an example of how that's actually been critical when you look at manufacturing at the national level in maintaining resilience during the current crisis. So hopefully you've got those results. Nina, have you got those down?
We can't see them on the screen. Can you share them with us?
Oh, right. Sorry, is that better?
Oh, yeah.
Can you see them now? Apologies.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So as you can see, as I said, 75% and 25%. And then if we go to the particular technologies, you can see the results there. And interesting, as I was saying, to see how low the numbers are for additive manufacturing. Okay. And what I'm going to do now, hopefully you can see that slide. I'm just going to take those results away for the moment. So what have we learned during the COVID crisis? Well, I think what we've seen, looking across the economy as a whole, that when a crisis hits, technology does allow manufacturers to be flexible, responsive, and resilient. And all of those three things have been really, really important. For example, as a country, we suddenly discovered we needed ventilators for the NHS. The normal procurement routes for those ventilators were not available. So the government challenged manufacturers in the UK to come up with domestic manufacturing. That required us to repurpose existing manufacturing facilities to be flexible. It needed manufacturers to be incredibly responsive to pull together new designs or adapted designs. But also resilience became an important issue. When components couldn't be sourced from overseas because of supply chain disruptions, we used 3D printing to print those components in the UK. Virtual reality was used to design these ventilators and ensure they got medical device approval without the usual ability for physical prototypes to be made and inspectors to come to premises and have a look and sign off that way. And without the ability to repurpose production lines and people very quickly, we wouldn't have been able to rise to that challenge. So I think that's a really, really interesting example of how we have used industrial digital technology in the last 3 months to rise to a national crisis and to make sure that UK manufacturing was able to play its part. Secondly, and I think Philippa and Adrian will talk a bit about this in a minute, remote monitoring of your equipment, remote working and remote collaboration can keep you going when travel is difficult and it's hard to actually get physically to places. Online sales and back office functions will keep the business moving without people having to physically come to the office in order to perform those functions. And really interestingly, as we're now thinking about how do we create COVID secure workplaces with the government guidance and the need to maintain social distancing of some sort for the foreseeable future, tech doesn't need to socially distance. Robots don't need to stay a meter apart from other robots. So deploying this kind of technology might well be able to help you deliver a COVID secure workplace that delivers the kind of productivity and output levels that you were getting before the pandemic hit. So I'm going to stop talking for now and hand over to our first speaker, Philippa Glover, who's the Managing Director of CNC Robotics and a great champion for industrial digitalization in the Northwest and nationally. Philippa, over to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So, you know, the COVID crisis has continued to disrupt the sector and the wider supply chain. And, you know, I think since the start of the outbreak, the manufacturing community as a whole has been challenged. But I suppose the reason why I'm here today is that I'm a huge supporter of Make UK. You know, Make UK has remained a consistent kind of presence, both for me as an individual, you know, as an organisation, but also the community in which I think we're all part of, and have continued to champion the sector and really feed challenges directly into government. And I kind of see that behind the scenes. And it's really kind of reinforced the value that Make UK brings to me as a leader, but also to us as a manufacturing community. So yeah, thanks to Tim and June for everything that you do and the rest of the team. So as well as being the MD for CNC Robotics, as Tim mentioned, I sit on a number of advisory boards, both within Make UK, but also the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, Manufacturing Made Smarter. And while sometimes, you know, when we sit in our businesses, it looks like, you know, no one's listening, or things aren't changing, or things aren't moving quick enough, you know, there really are conversations happening behind the scenes to really listen to the challenges that we're facing as a community. And, you know, I sit in there as an SME and really try and champion our voice as well as other people within the community. So please do continue to raise the challenges through the likes of Make UK or with me directly, so we can continue to champion the sector and make sure that our voices are represented and heard within government. So, you know, as a business, CNC Robotics, you know, I'm really, really lucky that we've maintained momentum throughout this whole process. But I know many of you on the line probably are in different situations. Some of you will be in exactly the same position as us, and, you know, have continued to operate under business as normal, although it being in line with government guidelines. Others will have shut operations, you know, and are slowly starting to begin to return, or dealing with demand surges, you know, and what I think, you know, I think is really clear that no matter where we are as businesses, actually what we're all faced with is uncertainty. And under the most severe constraints, the best thing for us to do is to innovate, and innovation will continue to be the lifeblood of businesses and will play an increasingly more important role as we move forward in the post-COVID economy. The current situation really has kind of, I suppose for me, really raised questions on the level of resilience within my own business. And, you know, I think we'd already done quite a lot of transformation within the business that I'll talk about, that enabled us to really stay in this really strong position and ensure that we, you know, we come out of this probably even stronger than we would have done within a kind of pre-COVID world. And there really is an opportunity for us to really start to look and see this as an opportunity. And yes, it has been a really difficult time, and it will continue to be a difficult time for the sector. But like I said, out of uncertainty comes the potential of innovation, and, you know, we can capitalise this and really try and further develop the strength of the UK manufacturing sector and the wider supply chain that we have. So, you know, as an individual and as a leader, you know, I have a business plan like everyone, but one of the things that I think this has really taught me is the importance of being able to think on your feet and look at the various different digital solutions that would enable you to protect the business. And the moves that we make now, you know, really do have a long-lasting impact and will provide, you know, real opportunities as we move forward. So as a result of our own digital transformation, you know, I was really able to quickly respond to the changing scenarios and the various different things that were happening as we went into lockdown. And basically overnight we were able to go from an engineering company that worked always in the office to working virtually. So all of the essential activities, we already had the right tools in place to enable those processes to continue. And, you know, I was really, really proud of the team who basically just responded and were just so agile and flexible because they had everything that they need to enable them to set up. We continued momentum also in terms of some of the physical processes that we did. So by identifying kind of key essential roles and making sure that we had a very informed plan and everyone was bought into that, we were able to also continue some of the physical build work we do as robot integrators. And throughout this whole process, what we've been able to do is also really identify further projects that would be really valuable for us as a business, because we recognise that actually there's a few things that we've gone, do you know what, we really wish we could have done it this way. So we're started to explore what virtual reality and augmented reality could mean to us when we're working with the manufacturing community and looking at simulations, systems to enable them to really envisage that in their factory. And as a result, I think, you know, my innovation pipeline and the plans that we've got from a business will become even stronger, because we've been able to really identify some of those things that we probably wanted to do, but we're further down the line, and we've started to really try and kind of increase the importance of that within the business. So as a robot integrator, we have seen many companies over the years invest in robotics to really look at the return on investment on those technologies. And sometimes they're quite basic applications, sometimes they're really quite advanced. And on that theme of innovation, we've just been awarded an innovation project with a consortium looking at some of those advanced technologies and applications. And that application was something that we went into under lockdown. And we've been awarded under lockdown, which I think is, I would say, is a real message to you guys, is please do not be put off when you see these opportunities kind of being advertised out there. You know, they are opportunities to absolutely help you really look at pushing the boundaries and continue to innovate and kind of grow the business in this evolving landscape. And, you know, we're looking forward to kicking that project off at the start of July. And will be fantastic for us as a business and the businesses who are part of that group to really maintain the momentum and some of the activity that we wanted to do. So just, you know, Tim touched on a bit around some of the opportunities around robotics and the role that robotics will play in the post-COVID economy. So as a business based in Liverpool City region, we've been really pioneering the use of industrial robots for over 10 years now. So it's our 10th birthday next month. And we've delivered hundreds of systems across the UK and globally, helping manufacturers really build in competitive advantages into their operations, helping them build agility, flexibility, and be more productive as a result of that investment. And we have seen examples within our own client base where, as a result of that investment, they really have proven that they are more resilient, and they've been able to kind of flex in this, I suppose, environment that we find ourselves in. Many of the robotic systems that we design here at CNC Robotics are really quite advanced. So we've just actually sent off a very large a vehicle with 2 robotic systems to a client up in the northeast, which is a robot on a linear track to enable that client to machine really, really large parts. You know, that the flexibility that robots now bring enable people to really tap into, I suppose, an increased level of production that they would not normally be able to do if they just use traditional tools. Whilst that's quite I suppose, an advanced example of using robots, you know, I think in the COVID world, you know, there is an increasing opportunity for manufacturers really to look at how robotics can help them be COVID safe. And, you know, we all know that social distancing measures are going to be kind of continuing moving forward. And actually, as we start to see an increase in some of the sales, if we have had to downside the business, you know, how do you best optimize the business to enable that it's as cost effective as possible? And we're really delivering value that will enable us to continue to grow and produce, I suppose, highly skilled jobs for the individuals who are part of our kind of key workforces. And some of our clients and some of the community is then kind of turning and looking at more towards pick and place applications or machine tending applications. And the first installation that we did during lockdown was actually for a machine tending application for a client up in Yorkshire. And it was really, really interesting, and it was great to hear their feedback after the first weekend. So we finished the installation on the Friday, and they came back to us and said, we were able to produce what we would normally have produced in a week in 2 days. And, you know, they pretty much now are ringing us every single day, just talking about how valuable this investment has been to them. And robotics isn't necessarily an expensive technology. I think sometimes there's 2 extremes. People either really underestimate how much it's going to cost, or they overestimate it. But it is a really accessible technology, and there is support out there to help manufacturers and help the community look at how do you make that more affordable, either through a leasing model or a renting model, or support from the bank or wider organisations such as the Made Smarter pilots within the Northwest that can provide some grant funding money to help with purchases. So I, really do see that the current situation really has got the potential to amplify the benefit of robots and what they can bring to the manufacturing community. And I think as businesses, if you are looking at how you can build resilience into your manufacturing operations and you're thinking about robotics, what's really important is I suppose that you find the right partner to help you, and that you start your journey with as much information as possible to also make sure that you implement something that is really going to be right for your business. And that's where, I would always encourage you to use a trusted partner and go to the networks and see who's out there, who's best placed to help you on that journey. And I suppose that's my final point would be, whilst, I think we've got many challenges along the way, and, as a business, we've been able to navigate those challenges by having a digital transformation project and program, and something that we're continuing to develop and evolve. We are actually more stronger because of the community in which we work with and the network that we have around us, who we're able to draw on to help us to further push the boundaries of what we're doing to help our clients, but also to help us as a business be much stronger and really capitalise on the opportunities that are going to be presented to us. So just finally, just in terms of with an ISCF Manufacturing Made Smarter hat on, there are going to be some opportunities that will be coming up. There's an opportunity which will be coming out on the 6th of July, which is for the Manufacturing Made Smarter Digital Supply Chain Collaborative R&D project. So this project is about focusing on innovation for digital technologies to enable businesses to be more efficient and productive and flexible, resilient, and it's all around kind of supply chains. So we know that the analog supply chains really need to be the thing of the past. Analog supply chains have been really proven to be quite difficult in light of the current situation, and there really is a need to really shift into that digital world. So if that is something that you're interested in, we'll be sending some links out. And if those of you who are in the Liverpool City region, if you're not already aware of the Future Innovation Fund, that's something that Steve Rotherham and the Devolved Administration has just launched, which is a fund to support new innovation projects that could be launched within the next 6 months. And there's also the LCR Start programme, which enables you to tap into people with strong knowledge on digital technologies who can help you look at your business and look at the various different opportunities that you might have and help you shape that plan alongside the Made Smarter pilot. So the Made Smarter pilot has similar advisors who can help look at your business and look at identify opportunities, but also then potentially help you get a grant application of up to 20,000 towards a project. So that could be kind of a software, or it could be something like a robotic system or 3D printing. They support a whole host of things. So if you're not already engaged in those programs, I would really encourage you to engage in them.
Thank you, Philippa. Thank you very much indeed. And please don't forget to put your questions. You can put the questions in the Q&A box at any time. So if there are things you want to ask Philippa, how have her robots been deployed? How did she keep her business going during COVID? How has she found engaging with Innovate UK and other bodies helping her through that? How did she pay for the investment she needed? All of those might be things that you might want to ask her about. So please don't forget to put the questions in the box. So now we are going to go east of the Pennines, and we're going to go to Adrian Hall, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Brandon Medical, based in Morley near Leeds. Now, I visited Adrian's factory earlier in the year before the crisis hit, and I was very, very impressed with what I saw. But Adrian, over to you. Could you please tell us about your digital journey and how it's helped you with resilience?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I think there's a lot of things listening to Philippa there that would resonate with us at Brandon Medical. But maybe a slightly different flavour in what I've got to say about some of the things of how we've responded to the marketplace. But first, I think I would, say, as we're talking about resilience here, I think one of the first responses is, well, how do we provide that? And it is, as Philippa was mentioning, is through responsiveness and flexibility. So as our market changes, our customers change, and indeed the very way that we do business, we can only be resilient to those changes by being our businesses and our business practices being responsive, and that giving us flexibility change to in a changing and dynamic world. And that's not just about product, it's about our facilities, it's about our business systems. But I think Philippa said something that's very dear to my heart about, the only future is through innovation. I repeat to many people around our business is basically, I think in whatever form, your only choice is to innovate or die, because those who stand still in our businesses are going to watch whilst the whole world accelerates past us. And all of these topics that we're talking about, all are either adding to the strength of our business, the resilience of our business, the flexibility, the ability to respond, or actually, through our products. Now, as a medical device manufacturer, which is what Brandon Medical is, we manufacture things like operating theatre lights and the medical gas systems and control systems that go into an operating room in a hospital. Yeah, we're a minnow. We turn over about 10 million, there's about 65 of us, but we're competing against businesses that are 100 or 1,000 times bigger than us. We literally, many of our competitors are 10, 20 billion and bigger. So our choice is, do we just meet those guys head on trying to do the same thing as them? And our view is, well, if we did that, we would fail because they've got more resources than us. So from the beginning, the very nature of our business was to try and become a med tech business that competed through innovative products and innovative ways to approach the marketplace. So all of the themes that we're discussing here today are very relevant. Some of the topics that Philippa mentioned in terms of what can help us as a manufacturer, we've embraced, such as we have some moderate experimentations with 3D printing. Well, why is this a nice toy that the R&D boys like? What does that give you in your business? Well, for us, it gave us rapid prototyping, and we're constantly are developing our business, even as a relatively small business. We're constantly developing our products. So that rapid prototyping ability allows us to play with ideas and to develop them and actually find where the weakness was and improve it, where actually before that type of additive technology, we had to try things maybe once or twice by getting some models made, and all too often, as I'm sure many of us will actually admit, a lot of the trials came from putting products into the marketplace that we subsequently found, oh, actually we needed some more material here, or actually this was too heavy, or something didn't work. So 3D printing, that's helped us prototype, but it's also actually allowed us to respond to, in our case, lots of parts of the marketplace where there's some very low volume parts, and it's been quite transformational as you realize that some of the additive technologies are actually perfectly suited to actual full production and not just prototyping. And again, that gave us a responsiveness, so we weren't having to actually wait for some of the low volume parts, which might take 12 weeks to deliver. We could actually redesign those as something that we could use a printing technology and respond, in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks instead of 3 or 4 months. We've also been looking at smart cell manufacturing, where actually we've recorded a process, we've fixed a process and best practiced a process, and capturing that into an intelligent system, which then guides the operator how to assemble or conduct a series of assembly and test tasks to, say, make an operating light lamp head. And this has the advantages for us that it reduces our reliance on that experience in head. Well, Bob's the bloke who knows about that, and these are the things that make every business owner nervous, because we know, well, what happens to me if something happens to Bob? But it also, again, coming back to that responsiveness, it allows us to scale business. If we have a sudden spike of business, which in our business we often do, we can actually bring in relatively unskilled labour, and because they're able to follow instructions from a computer screen, which is monitoring their activities and saying, right, you completed that, do this next. Now use talk driver to tighten this in this order, and showing on-screen instructions, while also testing the progress of the operator, then actually it's much easier to scale up a production cell very rapidly than it would otherwise just relying on in-house experience and knowledge. For us, a key part that we hadn't particularly thought about until we went along this is the improvement in quality and consistency, but also the improvement in regulation, because as a medical device manufacturer, we are regulated to death. And the fact that we can now show logs of the assembly of that product, and we can show, yes, there was 8 screws supposed to go in this part of the product, we can show the records that 8 screws have gone in and were correctly torqued. So all of these types of technologies, and there's many more that Make UK can speak about, we have to be open-minded and looking to how these might add, and robotics and robotic machine minding and some of the product things that Philippa was talking about, we have to be open to and challenge ourselves as to how we can use these to develop the quality and responsiveness of our business. And as Philippa says, a lot of these things are not as difficult as they used to be, and they are not as expensive as they used to be, and there is considerable support from both regionally and sometimes through central government. And usually the suppliers of these type of technologies know where that support is if you're brave enough to reach out and ask. So yeah, very much enjoyed what Philippa had to say there. The thing that I'll spend the rest of my few minutes talking about is how we've used digital technologies to reach out to our customers. And many businesses in the UK, are not volume businesses, though we would love to be. We're not Nissans, and we're, even our biggest car manufacturer, Jaguar, is actually a bit of a minnow in world times. And for most of us, the majority of us, were actually relatively small businesses, and we survive actually with some offering some very specialist products. And the thing about this, whilst this is a nice niche, and it is certainly true of my business, actually, the more specialist you are, actually, though we all think that we're selling product, actually what we're selling is relationships, because our customer, certainly who comes to us, doesn't know very much about operating theatre equipment. They might be a surgeon or a lead nurse, or even the builder that's building the operating theatre. He knows what he's got to buy, or she knows what she wants to achieve, but they don't actually know very much about their technology. So, they have the beauty parade that we're all familiar with. They'll come out to 3 people and they'll say, you're too expensive. And, well, the product that Tim's got is great, but I don't particularly like him. His eyes are a bit close together. Or actually, Adrian, look, smashing, you know what you're talking about. I can get on with you. And I think actually, if I do this, that actually when I have a problem, you're going to be there for me. So that person actually very much has bought into the relationship of who we are as trusted advisors and offerers of the products that they probably don't have that deep an understanding for. And if that's your business, then actually what's just happened to us this year is a real challenge, because suddenly we can't be sat in front of the customer for them, to read our body language, to see what we look like. Do we look professional, or are we a grubby little guy that looks like he's just come out from underneath the railway arches? And when we ask a difficult question, do they look comfortable that immediately have that answer, or actually, looking a bit shifty and starting to sweat under the collar? So, for us, it's been imperative that we're still able to reach out to our customers. So we were quite lucky that we'd put video technology in place. Like, we're all suddenly become Zoom experts. We use a different system called LifeSize, which is similar to Polycom and Cisco video conferencing. And we've had that in the business for 5 years and nobody ever used it. And all of a sudden, this has been our one portal out to the world. and it's been very important, and we've actually suddenly been using that technology. Now, I think what's changed in the world, that technology has been around for a long time. Suddenly, as of the last 3 months, people are actually now prepared to use it. So in the future, where we would have been jumping in the car onto the train and whistling down to London or whistling up to Scotland to come and talk to somebody, now the customer actually is open to having this kind of conversation instead of demanding that we travelled in an old-fashioned carbon-burning face-to-face business model. Now, for us, this is particularly relevant because actually what we sell is, part of what we sell is an integrated suite of equipment in the operating theatre that connects into the increasingly smart building environment that operating theatres are. So what we, in our products, we have like video, the medical equivalent of video conferencing built into the product. And so this is a great opportunity for us because we're able to reach out to our customers and say, hey, come and join us on a virtual meeting in Leeds, come and join us on a virtual tour, and we'll actually use the operating theatre digital technology as the demonstration platform to show you what you're buying. So I've resorted to video on a stick at the moment. So we've gone back to some selfie technology. So what I'm going to do now is basically take you on a tour of looking about how we have arranged ourselves to do this just as a practical examination. So what you'll see here is, this is Brandon Medical's meeting room. So, you know, a fairly standard conference table. As you see at the end of the table, we have a ubiquitous presentation screen, but this is actually linked through at the moment to our operating theatre suite. And actually you can see in here some pictures from the operating theatre. I did remove the body of anything too gory for this afternoon. And what our approach is that when we have a meeting here, somebody actually comes and sits right in the middle of our showroom. So actually, as we're talking to us or joining us digitally, they can't ignore the fact that is that an intensive care bed in the background. And as we come through and walk through to our actually foyer area here, what we have is a small but perfectly formed operating theatre. So I just come through into the operating theatre and you'll recognise the video link feed that was coming through to you. So actually in the operating room, we have a room camera up in the corner, which was the feed that you were watching. Modern operating lights actually have a camera actually in the operating light. So we have, whoops, up here, you see there's actually a camera embedded into the operating light, which is shining down onto the table, and that was one of the images that we were streaming out to you. So within the theatre, they will usually have monitors on the wall. So again, here you can see we're actually showing two images embedded into each other. One of the actual overroom of the room, so everybody in the theatre can see a wider view, and if you were watching remotely, you can see who's talking to you and where they're stood and what they're doing. You see this other image. I have an image actually of the actual operating site. And over here, these are the monitors that the surgeon would be using. So he'd be stood at the side of the table, and actually on these screens, this is a laparoscopic image. So you can see this is the laparoscope here, which is minimal invasive or keyhole surgery that would be inserted into you. And there's a camera on the end where my finger is here that is actually transmitting that image. And this is the image that the surgeon would watch whilst he's doing the surgery with this device inserted into you. And you can see in the corner, we actually have the vital signs just to show that Mr. Walton's doing very well here and he's still alive and he still has a heartbeat. So all of that is controlled via a touch screen here where the surgeon is able to say, okay, well, actually, that was great. Press the wrong button. The surgeon's able to actually direct which image is going where and which image is being shown into the seminar room. If I come over to here, this is how everything in the operating theatre is controlled. So this is a digital operating theatre. So this is like a giant iPad touch screen, and we're able to control everything in the operating room from here. We have the time of day, how long the operation has been running, because that's important as to how much the body cools during the operation. We can control the temperatures in the room, and we have a summary of any alarms that might be happening. And in this lower section, we can control things like the lights, the ventilation, we can have the medical gas status. We're able to control the type of lighting that we have in the room. So in minimal invasive, actually, they very often operate in blue or green light to help the visualization of what's happening in the operating theatre. And finally, there's also a music player, because the surgeons actually, some operations very long, they listen to music, and what we're trying to do is encourage them not to bring in external devices which aren't medical devices and actually a source of infection. So this brings everything together into one product. It's very exciting, because as we join that to the smart building, we're able to join up all of the technologies, the power supply, the medical gas supply, to monitor the status of the building, to automate it, but also to gather knowledge about what is happening in the operating theatre. So we can complete a complete data picture of what happened, a bit like your black box, in an aeroplane. And as we join these technologies together and forms communications to join the individual products together, then that actually allows us to create that integration. So that's our brand of medical operating theatre. As I say, we could talk for hours about this, but it's probably not that relevant unless you are a medical device specialist. But I think what is relevant here is that actually trying to find a way to actually project that technology out to a customer base when that that customer isn't able to come and sit down and touch it and play with it itself. And just starting to think about that as a problem, and then trying to encourage engagement, digital engagement with your customer base. So here's one technology solution. There's some much simpler ones to start with, which we're also putting, we'd underestimated, and that's the digital selling and social selling. So making sure that all of your people have things like LinkedIn, that they're building networks, that you're all sharing each other's information and commenting on each other, and commenting in a constructive way also on your competitors. Because as soon as you do that, you're being introduced to your competitors' audiences as well. So being aware of that and developing some stories to talk about that allow you to project your message. So there are now some projects that we take on just because we know that they will be impactful on effectively our marketing and our PR and our digital projection. Because come back to my problem is I'm a £10 million business competing about a £10 billion competitor. So, these are the types of things that actually in a digital space, we're all the same size. So I'm not sure if some of those things sort of resonate, but that's a little bit of our story. We're not saying we're doing anything perfectly, but that's a little bit of our experience and our story, and some of the things that we've had to go at that seem to be working for us. But it's a bright new world that, quite frankly, we're all trying all kinds of new things. So I think with that, I'll hand back to yourself, Tim.
Thank you, Adrian. Thanks very much, and thank you for the virtual tour as well. It's very impressive. And what struck me when I visited you was essentially that you were using industrial Internet of Things type technology, the concept of joining up a range of devices that were in in a building, in this case, a very specialist sort of set of devices with other things like heating and lighting, and also helping hospitals improve quality and, you know, assessment and audit of what's actually going on in the operating theatre. So if there were any problems, it was then pretty clear afterwards what was happening and who had or hadn't done what. So please do keep your questions coming in. We have a few questions which we will come to, but now's your opportunity to submit questions for me or Philippa or Adrian to respond to. So please do keep those coming in the box, and we will go through in the next while. Now, one that I see there's been a bit of chat about from Sandy Finley, hi, is about additive manufacturing demonstration facilities. Well, there is a national one, which is at the MTC in Coventry, where you can go. But Adrian, I don't know if you want to comment on that, because I think in your partnership with the University of Huddersfield, you actually worked with them to use their 3D printers before deciding to buy one of your own, didn't you?
Yes, so our design engineers had an opportunity to have a little bit of a play and practice on getting files out of our SolidWorks CAD system, and basically seeing it's just that practical level of okay, I understand what this is about, but how easy is it to do? How fiddly is it? How much of a pain in the bum? And, you know, like all of us, it is just that confidence of going and having a go. So, yeah, they were very supportive. You know, there's, and then we were also practicing quite a lot with suppliers. So increasingly using rapid prototype parts, which was also part of the learning curve.
And were you using, just to Nathan's question, what type of additive were you using? Were you using polymer or metallic there, or did you try both?
We've done both. We started with the metallic and almost production ready parts, and then actually, you know, we were a bit sniffy about you know, the polymer and, you know, almost things that look like the hobbyist end. But actually, as we've learned to become more confident, you know, we now have a polymer thread-fed machine with a glass reinforcement reel. And yeah, actually, that is very suitable for some of our components. So, like everybody, we've had to learn to be a bit more open-minded and less of our sort of traditional engineering sniffiness. This is a completely new technology that you have to work out how to work with its strengths. So yes, we've used both, but like many things in our field, you know, you've got to get in there and get your hands dirty and have a go and have a play. And as some wise man said, you know, the fastest learning is through failure. So we've got a big pile of bits in the bin, I have to say.
But the University of Huddersfield, let you borrow theirs, so you didn't have to invest in one up front, and you know, if it wasn't going to turn out to be worth the cost, I think was the key thing. And what you had there was a knowledge transfer partnership, which is one of a range of things that are available, and they can help universities work with manufacturers like Brandon Medical, where they want to experiment and try things out. And we'll circulate in the follow-up to the meeting details of where all of those are. And I see that quite a few other people in the questions are providing details of other 3D printing facilities that are around the place. So help is definitely out there if that's what you want to do. Could I just, well, Philippa, before I go to Sandy's other question, and please do come back to us, and June, I'll come to you in a minute because I see that you've put your hand up. But Philippa, one of the things you touched on when you were talking was about finance. Now, you're making and selling quite expensive equipment.
Yeah.
Do you find the cost of that prohibitive or a challenge when you're trying to help people? And are there innovative ways that we can help overcome the big upfront costs that an investment in technology like a robot often entails?
I think that's a really good question, Tim. So it really depends on at what point our client is on their journey. So sometimes we've got people that we've been speaking to for about 3 or 4 years, because they've had an initial inquiry about what a system would be, and potentially it's a really big system, and then they've gone away and they've kind of done, I suppose, a lot of their planning and preparation to then include that in their capex plans and I suppose secure the money. We've got other clients who probably tend to be the kind of smaller manufacturers, so in the SME base, who actually make decisions much quicker, I think. And they're either cash rich, so use their own money, or do look at leasing models. And the leasing model, is actually a really attractive model and has enabled us to, support manufacturers to invest sooner than what they might have done. So instead of spending, for example, 100 grand on a system, it might cost them 2 grand a month. And actually that becomes much more manageable, because it's almost like it's an additional salary that they need to pay for a shop floor worker. It's just they're going to get a robotic system that gives them significant return on investment and I suppose create new opportunities. There's a couple of different kind of innovation models now within that finance landscape. So there are companies who are doing traditional borrowing, or there's companies like Equipment Connect now who use, I suppose, alternative finance models to almost disrupt that market. So I think there are more opportunities for businesses to look at what the right deal is and support them with that journey. And I suppose we just kind of almost signpost them and just help answer any questions that they have, rather than I suppose try and sell that. I suppose it's about being an honest broker and helping them make the right decision.
And Adrian, I guess a lot of your clients will be public authorities, won't they, in sort of one shape or form? But has that been an issue, and has the ability for your products to deliver productivity or cost savings for the users, for the hospitals themselves, been an important aspect in differentiating yourself from your competitors?
Yeah, we have a very varied client base. I mean, like everybody else, the NHS just shut down and wasn't interested in anything other than its immediate priority. And so for us, the way the business has carried on, it has been, large projects that we're just having to progress anyway. We were having to carry on manufacturing, or they were opportunities that presented very quickly and needed to be responded to very quickly, a number of them overseas. And what we saw was that particularly our European, continental European-based competition had basically shut up shop and stopped ordering parts and stock, and their lead times spiraled. And we went the other way. We continued to convert and build sales-ready late configuration stock. And where, what's worked for us is then when somebody has come, well, actually, I need to open this facility, but I need to open it in 3 weeks. We were able to respond to that, whereas our competitors were quoting 12 and 18-week lead times. So again, it comes back to the point that both Philippa and myself made earlier, is for many businesses like ourselves, which are niche businesses, one of the things that we can compete upon is responsiveness in the marketplace.
Thank you, Adrian. That's great to hear. June, I think you wanted to come in.
Just very briefly, I'm just conscious that when I look down the participants, Tim, there may be 2 or 3 people who don't know who I am. So I just thought it might be wise just to briefly introduce myself, and they might be thinking, who on earth's that woman with the specs looking at me? So I'm June Smith. I'm the Regional Director for Make UK, colleague of Tim's in the north of England. And it's my job really for myself and my team, Dawn and Annette, who are on the call, to gather this sort of intelligence and be that bridge between yourselves and stakeholders and our Westminster team. So I'm not going to take any more time, just to say that there is a facility to try before you buy, free through the public sector, out of the Daresbury Science Centre in Manchester, and it's the Hartree Centre. It is one of the best kept secrets, I think, of the government at the moment, and funding is there for any size of business, projects, mentoring. It is more about data-driven technology, so it's not robotics, Philippa, but it's anything which is data around smart technology. You can go and have a look and you can see exactly what it can do for your business.
Thank you. Thanks, June. Sounds like is that the ice cream van coming in home first there?
I will mute myself immediately.
Wish it would come round here. It's absolutely boiling hot.
So I don't know how much people actively engage with Daresbury, but Daresbury have been doing an amazing job keeping their business breakfast networking events going. So every month they do it out of Daresbury, normally with a bacon butty and a coffee, and there's a whole host of wonderful people who are there to support business. You know, pre-COVID, I would go most months if I could, but sometimes it was quite difficult when you're running a business. They now do that virtually, and you literally get a round robin of all of the organisations who's there to help you, and they all kind of provide their soundbite, and it is a bit of a massive information, but it's brilliant, and it's so great that it's now virtual because, you know, you don't necessarily have to take so much out of your day. So John Leake and Paul Treller are the guys that run that facility, and they are just brilliant, really, really great guys.
Great, thank you, Philippa, and please do follow up. And again, June, yes.
Yeah, well, I'm just conscious that some people on the call, you know, they're listening to Made Smarter and they're thinking, well, I can't get this in my patch. Now, I'll come on to that when I do my final close, but anybody, anywhere in the country can go to Daresbury and have a look at what they do. So I'm really pleased that Philippa's on board with it as well.
Yeah,
and that's so I think that's why so the BBN, they're looking at continuing doing it virtually kind of in the future to allow any business to kind of still tap into that intel, which I think is a great idea and probably a fantastic outcome as a result of the current situation. So it isn't just for people who can commute to Daresbury, it's people who can, I suppose, engage and be part of that wider network wherever you are.
Right, thank you. And again, we will follow up at the end with an email with information about all of this. Now, we do have a bit more time for questions, so we've only got one outstanding. So I'm gonna encourage you all to submit questions. So please don't be shy. You see how the system works. We've got Adrian and Philippa here for a few more minutes yet. So if there are questions that you would like to ask them that they haven't answered already, then now's your opportunity. Please do type those into the box. Now, the one outstanding is good to see, Alistair, that you've had good work with Daresbury. That's really good to hear. Now, Sandy again has put another question in. He says, why do the panel think participants? I guess that's that's referring to the poll. See the industrial Internet of Things and back office systems as being more important to building resilience than the more directly linked manufacturing technologies? That's a very good question. Philippa, why do you reckon?
Yeah, so I think they're fundamental. So I suppose even though I'm a robotics company, the first thing that I did within the business was really look at the back office operations. You know, I moved everything to the cloud. I changed our accounting system. I put in integrated CRM systems, and that really enabled me to probably actually be in the position that I've been able to commercially drive the business forward during a pandemic. If I didn't have those, I would not have been able to have maintained the level of commercialization that we've done during this situation. So I think they're fundamental to a business. You have to get that backbone right. And, you know, and there's lots of different digital technologies that bring different things. And yeah, I could imagine if a robot was put into a manufacturer who didn't have the ability to really process things effectively in the office, they probably at some point would struggle. And I think we've got some great businesses on the line, and I saw Barry from Playdale there who've done quite a lot of innovation in that back office, which has enabled them to then really capitalize on the next level of technology to grow their business and move it forward.
Thank you, and certainly a lot of Make UK members we've met and talked to this about often saw a cloud investment of back office systems as the first step in their digital journey. And then when they saw the productivity and the benefits that came from that, they then thought, well, look, if I can revolutionize my sales or my finance or my HR with this sort of product, what can it actually do to my shop floor? And then moved on to thinking about more manufacturing related technologies. Now, Adrian, what's your experience at Brandon been about that?
I think, I concur with what Philippa says. Your first thought as any threat hits you is, how do we keep operating? So we actually have, fortunately, adopted an IP telephony system, which actually just, why should we update the telephone system? But actually that was something that was made sending people to work from home so much easier. So literally we had people the next day pick up their phones from their desk, take them home and plug them into their router at home, and they were working with a phone that was ringing on their dining room table just as it was in the office. The fact that we had VPN and remote access was set up and ready to go. We were using things like all of our servers run on a virtualized platform, which suddenly we had to go from usually having 2 or 3 connections from outside the building from salespeople to having 20 connections. But because we had a virtualized servers in our IT, we were able to divert resources to beef up the remote desktop servers, so we could support 20 people working from home. So why was this the first thing? It was because that was a time imperative thing to rebalance the business as to how it was working on its infrastructure. These technologies are not as expensive as they used to be, but you do need to have IT support from a quality partner who knows what they're doing and you trust and can advise you and support you in these things. And we'd already done these things, but they really came into their own in the last 3 months. The second, I think, that then comes after I've secured my business is the next thing is secure my route to market. And so the things that I was talking about being able to continue to project ourselves using Zoom and Life Size and Teams and share information and share video meetings. And that's about maintaining our link with our customers. All the actually, deeply technical and very exciting things that we could put into the factory, a little bit less time dependent. So I guess, to answer the question, that that's why they're often no less important, but in what's just happened to us, they're probably a bit less time dependent than the back office and the route to market issues.
Thank you, Adrian, and thank you, Philippa. And I guess the message that I'm taking from that is very much that you'd both made digital investments in back office systems because you felt that was the right thing to do anyway, before anyone knew that a pandemic was on its way. But having made that investment and got out in front and digitalized your processes, that then stood you in good stead. And I guess by comparison, somebody who hadn't done that for whatever reason would have struggled, and probably is struggling rather more at the moment to keep their business going than you both have.
And Tim, just as an example, so one of the things that we did as a business during this time is we got Cyber Essentials. I don't know whether anyone's familiar with Cyber Essentials, but it's run by the National Cyber Centre. So it's a government initiative that enables you to really, I suppose, demonstrate that you are cyber secure and you've got the right protections in place. And we've got a contract that, we were in the process of closing that required us to go to that. But because we've been on that journey, actually, it was almost a bit of a tick box exercise to go through Cyber Essentials to validate that we had the right things in place. So for me, it then enabled me to kind of close that deal in this landscape. And that's something that I think is also worthwhile manufacturers knowing about if they've not already looked at that cyber security piece. There's a really simple toolkit that you can use to help secure your business.
So that's a really important point, because often when we talk about this, I haven't seen it raised today, but concerns about cybersecurity are often one of the barriers that prevent people from going down this route. And there's plenty of help available, including from the National Cybersecurity Centre. Make UK has a partner as well that we offer our members to help with that. So it's not as much of a, it doesn't need to be a barrier, so long as you take sensible precautions, and help and support is available out there for that. So I don't see any more questions. If there are any more burning questions, put them in the box. But I would just like to see what you think in terms of your digital future. So we've got one other little poll, which I'm going to launch now. So really, really interested to hear your thoughts on these three questions. Has the COVID crisis and the need for resilience and the kind of things you've heard Adrian and Philippa talk about today, has all of that, do you think, improved the case for investing in technology in your business? Secondly, we've talked a bit about skills and knowledge, and Adrian in particular and Brandon did that with the University of Huddersfield. Do you think you've got the skills and knowledge you need to get the most out of new technology? Because there's not a lot of point investing in it if then you don't know how to use it to its full potential. And then thirdly, and we've talked about some of the options like Daresbury, do you know where to find advice and support to help you on your digital journey? So any more people like to vote? If you would like to vote and you haven't done already, could you just do so in the next few seconds? Okay. So hopefully you can see those results on your screen. So has the COVID crisis improved the case for investing in technology in your business? An overwhelming majority of you think yes, it has, and that's really good to see. Obviously, we think that. That's partly why we're holding this event today. That this new focus on resilience, together with the kind of willingness of customers, as Adrian was saying, to embrace digital ways of working and selling and communicating to a much greater extent than before, I think really has improved the case for tech investment. Interesting but not surprising that a majority of you, 2/3 of you, feel that you don't have the skills and knowledge needed to get the most out of new technology. We are aware that this is a very significant issue, and that's partly why initiatives such as Made Smarter do exist to help you identify what the skills gap is and to do something about it. But we will follow up after the meeting with some more signposting of places of advice and support. And good to see that nearly 3/4 of you know where to find advice and support to help you on your digital journey. So we would really, really encourage you to reach out to the kinds of places we've been talking about: universities, local enterprise partnerships, the Made Smarter adoption pilot if you're in the northwest of England, national facilities like Daresbury, and all of these other groups that we will send around afterwards that can help you to provide you with the support that you will need along this journey. So thank you very much. So just one final comment from me, and then I will hand you over to June. So what conclusions? And you can see there, I didn't update that slide from the Midlands. That's a shame. I will. June will not be happy with me on that. So in conclusion, this isn't just for the big guys. This agenda is essential for everyone. It's not just something that if you're a Siemens or if you're an Airbus that you should become involved in. You've heard from 2 SMEs today who are competing with the big guys, who have made this a reality and have made it part of their business model. As I've mentioned on several occasions, we will send out support, send out information about where you can find help and support after the meeting. But please do help us to help you. complete your our innovation monitor survey. It's really, really important. We've got the latest information about where you all stand on this. Please work with regional partners to make this a priority for them, to make sure we can get you even better help and support. If you're in the Northwest, there is a dedicated program there. In other parts of the North, there are help and support available, but it's not quite as coordinated in the Northwest. And we'd really, really like you to share with us your own examples of best practice. And do keep connected with Make UK in the North. It's not Charlotte and Chris, it's June, Dawn and Annette, all of whom are on this call and who I hope you know. They will work with you to make sure that you get the help and support you need. But please do feed back to us how you're getting on with this agenda so that we can represent you most effectively and make sure that you get what you want. So I'm going to end there and pass you over to June, North Regional Director for Make UK, just to conclude the session. June, over to you. June, we can't hear you. I think you're still on mute at the moment. There we go. That's better.
Most people prefer it when I'm on mute, Tim, but however, you can't have it always. I'll only take a couple of minutes. So it's a thank you to both Philippa and Adrian, because they are both SMEs, as you've said. They both sit on our regional board, and I think they're fine examples of just how Make UK members that are doing well in certain fields, certain topics, certain priorities, are very happy to share what they do with the peers. You know, so thank you very much for what you've done, and I do look forward to more and more virtual boardrooms and seeing railways and aeroplanes and cars in boardrooms, as well as medical theatres. That looks quite exciting. Philippa, your check's in the post for the nice kind words that you said about us. I just very briefly wanted just to talk about the North-South divide, because we were talking about this before COVID-19, and just coincidentally myself and Tim were talking about it in terms of technology adoption this morning. It's really important that we continue to adopt smart technologies in the North. And please, you know, you're on this call, you're obviously interested in it. Will you just be ambassadors for it as well? If you're talking up and down your supply chains and people are not engaging in smart technology in the North, please get them involved. It's so important. Westminster are watching us. No point us saying we are manufacturing heartland if we are not running with all this innovation. And one thing to show your supply chain and your customers are going to be doing it. So we know that they've been looking at how they can be more efficient and more productive during COVID-19. And if as SMEs in those supply chains, you and your fellow manufacturers aren't adopting all this stuff, then you won't have customers. It is literally, as Adrian said, do it and grow or die. That said, if it's all a mystery, if you're all thinking, I'm terrified of all this stuff, we're that busy, we're trying to get out of this quagmire, this mess, what they're talking about, just come to us for help. It's not always about just promoting Make UK, it's enabling us and our connectivity with stakeholders. And if things aren't available locally to help you and you're telling us about it, that's when we can lobby, both regionally and through Tim, directly into number 10 and wider aspects of government, to make them aware that they need to get this available for you. So do reach out to us. And the other thing to say is that in Make UK, we've got an army of people who want to share good practice. You know, we are a little bit of a big cheesy family. Unless we're in direct competition with each other, we like to share our good news. And I know a number of people, certainly on the regional advisory boards, who completely free of charge will share the good practice and do a little bit of peer-to-peer mentoring. So please do talk to us. Conversely, if you're doing things well, if you're innovating, if you're involving if you're engaging and investing in all this smart technology, or even if throughout COVID-19 you've kept going regardless, you've been part of the war effort and you're proud of what you've done. Tell your workforce you're proud of what you've done, but equally tell the manufacturing sector and tell the government you're proud of what you've done, because we need them to know that up north we were the start of the Industrial Revolution the first time round, and we're going to be a big part of the fourth one. And you can do that via the manufacturing awards. and it would be very remiss of me not to mention these awards. They close in a fortnight. Myself and my team can help you. We've got integrity. We do not judge our own awards, but I'm determined that the North is going to do well in these awards. So I'll just leave you with 3 final words, not education, but think of Tony Blair and June Smith when I say awards, awards, awards. Please go in for them. Let's show off and let's be the best. Tim, that's my lot. I'm done.
Thank you, June. Thank you very much. And thank you to Philippa and Adrian for your time this afternoon. Thank you to all of you for joining us. If you have questions or follow-up, then you know how to get in touch with us, and look out for an email from Nina coming around in the next couple of days with more information about sources of help and support. And really importantly, the link you can follow to fill out our Innovation Monitor survey, and we look forward to your input from that. So thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I hope it's been a helpful session. If you know people who weren't able to join us who you think would be interested, look out on YouTube in a couple of days and the session will be there to share with them. And good luck on your digital journey.
Thank you, guys. Well done.